If you're old enough, then I'm sure you've all seen some toys that you used to play with disappear, and no, I'm not just talking about what Mom threw away. The toy industry is constantly evolving in order to have that next smash hit that could be worth a fortune. This process always leads to manufacturers discontinuing toys that some kids loved. In this video, we will have a look back at some of the 1970s toys that have been forgotten. Smash Up Derby TBone Crash was a toy made by Kenner, and it was aimed at boys ages 5 and up. It consisted of a 7-inch plastic pickup truck, a ramp, and a stationary junk car. When the truck crashes into the junk car, it would send the doors, wheels, bumpers, and hoods flying. Although it may have sounded like a lot of fun, it did have some frustrating flaws. The wheels and the doors of the truck tended to fall off even before it collided. Not only that, but after a while the pieces were a little bit difficult to pop back on. It also required a flat surface, which was a bit challenging in the 1970s with sunken-in living rooms and shag carpet. Overall, this wreck of a toy was never the smash hit that they intended it to be. Baby Come Back was a doll made by Mattel, and it was designed for little girls over the age of 5. This battery-powered 16-inch doll walks and turns when the child pulls down the doll's arms. A major drawback to the doll was the fact that it needed a very flat surface to walk. On low-cut carpet, the doll would just sort of stand there and shimmy but not walk. When it was on the thick shag carpet of the time period, it wouldn't even stand. This was something that the commercials on television never mentioned, but the packaging did if you happen to notice it on the inconspicuous spot on the back of the box. Don't expect this baby to come back anytime soon. Hot Wheels Thrill Driver's Corkscrew was intended for boys over 3, and it was made by Mattel. It consisted of 2 small cars, 2 rubber band powered launchers, 8 sections of plastic track, 2 loops, and a finish gate. All of this would need to be assembled so that the cars could race each other through the corkscrew-shaped track. Toys like this could be hours of fun, and the tracks could be placed anywhere you wanted. The only downside to this toy was if you were bad. If you happened to jump the car and it broke something in the house, then you were probably going to get a whipping with the track. Baby This and That was a doll created by Rimco for ages 3 and up. If you squeezed her toes, this 14-inch doll could move her arms and lips and then suck up some water from a straw. She came with a toothbrush, straw, spoon, and a telephone. Looking at it now, you might be a little disappointed because she doesn't quite bring the phone to her ear, and the lip movement doesn't resemble actual talking, but for the time period, she was actually pretty fun for little girls. The commercials that aired on television showed her drinking a colored liquid, but the instructions clearly said to use clean, clear water only. This was most likely to prevent moldy situations that had become problematic in other dolls that consumed liquids. At that point, they would just become garbage. Max Machine was a plastic battery-powered van made by Shaper Manufacturing for kids ages 5 and up. This toy was steered by squeezing the trigger of a device that makes a clicking sound. Television commercials showed the Max Machine making turns from considerable distances. However, that wasn't always the case. In fact, the van would actually respond better when the user made noise by striking 2 small boards together. This van was a cool concept, but it failed to capture the imagination of kids. Rivaton 300 was a toy that was designed for kids between the ages of 6 to 12, and it was sold by Parker Brothers. It was essentially a construction set that had more than 170 plastic parts, which were joined by almost 200 elastic push-in rivets. The parts came in a variety of straight, curved, and flat surfaces. It was meant to compete with Tinker Toys and Erector sets, and it was only limited to a child's imagination. Toys of this nature are certainly not as popular as they once were among children. The Girder and Panel International Airport was made by Kenner for ages 7 and up. This building set had several hundred interlocking plastic pieces that formed airport facilities and other structures. This set included girders, beams, facings, runways, airplanes, people, and a conveyor belt. This was great at capturing the imagination of children, but would it work in today's time? Probably not. Games like Roblox and Sims have taken its place. Baby Won't Let Go was made by Kenner for girls ages 3 and up. This 17-inch doll would grip objects when the arms were raised and then would release the grip when the arms were lower. The doll had movable legs and could also sit. It came with a rattle and a squeaky toy, and no batteries were required. However, the commercials may have been a little misleading. It showed the doll walking with the aid of a young girl as well as standing on its own. Both of those activities seemed somewhat troublesome. The only way the doll would ever shake a rattle is if the child shook the arm. Kids also had trouble pulling up the arms without holding down the doll's legs. This is one doll that kids were probably fine with letting go. Putt Speedway was made by Mattel for kids between the ages of 2 and 7. It came with more than a dozen racetrack pieces, which means that assembly is required. The kit also included 2 wind-up cars, which would race on the 2-lane oval plastic course. Younger kids could struggle with the track assembly, but the cars could be operated just fine. Kids who were closer to the age of 7 may have gotten bored with this toy, so it seems like the perfect age for this toy was probably around 5. It really wasn't something that kids would enjoy for years down the road. Of course, every kid is different, so that might not always be the case. The Cher Beauty Center was made by Mego, and it was really aimed at little girls who wanted to try their hand at hair and makeup. It may be difficult for many of us to imagine now, but Cher was really a fashion icon, and she paved the way for other female artists that came along later. So at the time, she was the perfect model for this toy. However, she wasn't the only one. Even Farrah Fawcett had one, but her hair was probably a lot harder for little girls to recreate. Both of these had a very small time period in which they were sold. Suntan Tuesday Taylor was a doll made by the Ideal Toy Company. They were aiming at the same crowd that loved Barbie, and Ideal was hoping to dislodge Mattel's super popular doll. But Tuesday Taylor had one advantage. She could actually get a suntan. When you went out in the sun, she actually darkened. This, of course, was marketed to little girls during a decade when getting suntans and not using sunblock were not discouraged. She had quite a few friends and accessories that you could also play with, and nothing says the 70s like getting burnt outside with your toys. The O.J. Simpson Super Pro set was released by Sundana Toys and was meant for little boys ages 3 and over. At the time, he was the perfect toy for any boy who admired the NFL football star and his athletics. O.J. came with all the right accessories to help keep him in top physical shape. This larger-than-real-life figure was pretty popular when he hit the toy store shelves. Holly Hobbie was made by Knickerbocker Toy Company and was aimed at little girls. Not only were the toys incredibly popular, but so was anything else that had her image on it. There were dolls, beauty sets, lamps, toy boxes, and so much more. She was popular in the 1970s, and her popularity continued into the mid-80s. So there were plenty of young girls that cherished their Holly Hobbie items. Toys are a necessary item for all kids. Unfortunately, some of these beloved toys stopped getting produced for one reason or another, and all that we are left with are some precious memories. Can you think of any others that we missed? Or maybe you'd like to share some special memories of your favorite toy in the comments below. Thanks for watching.